your name?
My name is Jim Knight and I am the Minister of State for Schools.
Do you think there is such thing as childhood stress?
Undoubtedly, people of every age can get stressed. Some get more stressed than others, but certainly childhood stress is something that we should take seriously.
Why do you think children and young people get stressed?
I think they would get stressed for all sorts of reasons, but in essence, I think it would be to do with everything that's going on in their lives. That's part of life, but we've got to make sure that it's manageable for people.
What was school like for you? Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy school. Obviously I didn't enjoy every single bit of it. That would be absurd. But generally I enjoyed it, and I look back on it with affection. I went to a private school in southeast London, and was at the same school for 10 years. And whilst my parents were separating and going their separate ways, whilst my dad was very sick for a period of time, the one stable thing in my life really was school, and I really enjoyed it.
Do you think there is more childhood stress now than there was when you were at school?
I'm not sure. There may be. I mean, it may be that there are some stresses that are new. I mean, I talked about earlier on about cyberbullying. Things have changed. I remember when I were a lad, when I was young, Coke was a treat. Coca-Cola, and yet it seems like people have it every day now. So some things have changed, but some things will never change, and there may be stresses that we had then that aren't around anymore. We don't hit children much these days, so maybe you don't get so stressed about being hit by the teacher. I don't know. But the basic things, I think, remain the same.
Why do we have so many exams?
We have more exams now than we used to that are marked outside school. But there's always been exams in school, and there's always teachers have always tested pupils, and no pupil spends more than 0.2%, 1/5 of 1% of their time, taking nationally marked tests. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Do you think there are other ways of testing other than exams?
There are other ways of doing it. I mean, when I was at school 25, 30 years ago, for the equivalent of GCSEs, no coursework counted except in art. And I do think that's putting too much pressure at one point. So you can play around with this, but in the end, when young people go into work, when they go into other situations, when they want to pass a driving test, for example, they've got to go through the stress of being tested.
What is the purpose of SATs?
There are a number of things that we want out of SATs. For you individuals to be able to see how you're doing, not just compared to your classmates or others in your school at that age, but in those priority subjects, English, maths, science, to be able to see how well you're doing against anyone else of your age across the country. Your parents can see how you're doing. Your teachers can see how you're doing. And then we can also see how well the teachers in the school are doing by how well all of you are doing compared to national results. And then finally, we can see how well the whole school system is doing by comparing how well your age has done compared to previous years.
Why are expectations so high for young people?
We could have a debate about whether their expectations are higher now than they used to be. I think they probably are, actually, to be fair. And that is related to just the changing nature of work in the economy. So we know that the level of skill that is needed for you to get work and to stay in decent work that you find interesting is much higher than it used to be. And that's because of global competition. The cars that were made in Dagenham are now being made overseas somewhere.
Do you think the amount of work that children are given and the high expectations on them has anything to do with bad youth behaviour nowadays?
No, I don't think so. And most young people behave really well. Vast majority of young people, and it's just really unfortunate that the minority are badly behaved. The relationship to the work that's said, I think the work that's said is about trying to give you the education that you need to be able to get on as people, being able to cope with stress in life, but also with the skills you need to be able to do well in the economy.
What do you think our experience of school will be like in the future?
Well, we're currently refurbishing or rebuilding all of the schools in England, all the secondary schools. And Hackney is one of the first areas to get that. And you've seen the new academies. I mean, it may be that in some of the academies that we're seeing what the future looks like for schooling. You're seeing generally new buildings. I haven't been to Mossbourne, but more use of technology. Higher ambitions and aspirations for young people, possibly stricter about understanding what good behaviour and bad behaviour is and what the consequences of behaving badly will be. And I think that's a really good thing. Yeah, Hackney's moved from having a really bad reputation for schools to transforming that with the changes that we've seen in recent years, and that's the transformation we want to see everywhere.
How do you think we can lessen childhood stress, particularly in schools?
As I say, I don't think it's so much a question of the amount of stress, but it's how you manage it. And so some of the programs that we're bringing in around social emotional aspects of learning, use of sport, the use of the arts, these are all ways of helping you learn to express what you're feeling and express your stress in a manageable and constructive way. Pleasure. Really nice to talk to you.